Greetings and salutations, boys and girls. Welcome to a video about audio. We haven't done one of these in a while, that's for sure. On this channel, in case you're new, we do mostly videos about Linux and the Linux operating system for your computer. But every once in a while, I like to do a video about audio, and I love doing videos about turntables. So today we're going to talk about this one. This is the RT85N from Fluance. It'll cost you about $500. And you can buy it directly from Fluance. That's the US price, by the way. It's also available in the UK and Europe as well. About the rest of the world, I'm not really sure, but that's what I know. Okay, so you're probably looking for a review. Let me give you one. It's a nice turntable. We'll start over here. It's a belt-driven turntable. And there's the motor, and you see the drive belt wrapped around the 3-pound acrylic platter. That's amazing. Very cool indeed. It's also a quartz-locked belt-driven turntable. I own 2 of those now. I love them. Really, honestly. It's kind of an amazing blend of technologies. When you hear quartz lock, if you're from the age of Techniques and Sony turntables, you think about direct drive, but this is quartz lock belt drive, and it works very, very well. As a matter of fact, the specifications for the speed control of this turntable are as good as a dual 618Q, which is a direct drive turntable that costs twice as much. One of the reasons I bought it. The other reason I bought it was because of this lovely tone arm over here. This is just a nice tone arm. It is a S-shaped, and it takes regular SME head shells, which is the kind you see on like Techniques turntables. Speaking of which, some of you might recognize this tool that you use to get an alignment when you are putting a cartridge on a Techniques turntable. This measures 52 millimeters from the washer on the plug to the stylus tip. And on a Techniques, it gives you a modified Stevenson type of alignment. Not here. This tone arm has been engineered so 52 millimeters gives you a perfect bare wall alignment. I double checked it. First I used this to set this cartridge up just to get it started. Then I double checked it, and they concur. So that is very, very cool. That's nice to know if you're going to be switching cartridges around and you want to do a quick setup just to see how things are going, and you don't really want to fuss with alignment too much. It also makes it compatible with a lot of Concord-style cartridges available for the Techniques and other S-shaped tone arms that look for 52 millimeters as the quote-unquote overhang. It's not really the overhang, but that's what they call it in a lot of places. So the tone arm was definitely one of the reasons I bought it. It's very well made. It's very tight. The only complaint that I have about the tone arm is that if you look back here, you'll see on the counterweight that it's very difficult to see the numbers. They're not really highlighted very well, and they're very small. Same thing with the anti-skate dial over there. And the other thing that I don't like about this arm is this little tiny Q lever that's way back around the corner here. It's kind of like the same one I've got on my Audio-Technica turntable, which was built by the same company, but we'll get in that in just a little bit. I think they could have put a more substantial Q lever on it. It's kind of hard to find if you're in a hurry. This turntable sits on 3 suspended rubber feet. In other words, there's springs in them. And they provide you with a lovely little bubble level when you open up the kit here. And so you can balance the turntable properly. No, you don't get this big metal 45 adapter. You get a plastic one. I added that. And the stylus brush is mine. And those of you who are very astute are noticing there's no Nagalka MP110 cartridge on here, which is supposed to come with the RT85N. Well, there's a story about that. See, when I unpacked the turntable and I set it up for the first time, I was listening to records. About the second one I put on, it played for about 10 or 15 seconds, and then there was this giant pop that sounded like a gun going off. Scared the hell out of me. Well, that tended to be a problem, that if I put a record on, especially if I didn't use my anti-static brush, which is right here, and before I did it, I'd get these terrible static discharges. This sucked. I tried all kinds of stuff to fix this. I swapped cables. That didn't help. I had originally hooked the turntable up with a connected cable from Project, which is quote-unquote semi-balanced. I thought maybe that might be an issue because maybe it wasn't a proper ground for that cartridge. So I put the cables that came with the turntable on it. They send very nice cables and a ground wire. No difference. I contacted them. Originally, I just wanted them to send me a 2M Blue ortophone, which is what comes with the other version of this turntable. They said they wouldn't do it because apparently there's a difference in the tone arm between the setup for the ortophone 2M Blue and the Nagaoka MP110. Now, I don't know how much of a difference there is. They said it had to do with the vertical tracking angle, which is the height of the tone arm, and the only difference in height between the two cartridges is 0.6 millimeters. The ortophone 2M Blue is exactly 18 millimeters tall, while the Nagaoka MP110 is 18.6 or thereabouts. So I said, well, never mind then. I'll just use the turntable with what I've got here. I pulled out a Stanton 500 cartridge. I do love my Stanton 500s, boys and girls. I have a couple of them. And I bought this particular one and the head shell that it was on about a year ago for a project, never really used it. So I just put it on the turntable to see whether it would fix the problem. Guess what? No pops, no clicks, no problem. So I've been listening to records with it, and then just last week, after I settled the issue with Fluance about how we would deal with it, I ordered this lovely replacement stylus from LP Gear. It's actually for a Pickering DAME3 cartridge, and or the stylus rather. It's a Pickering stylus. That works on the Stanton 500, and it sounds wonderful. Plus, I love the little brush there. I have been listening to a Shure with a brush, and I kind of got where I like that. So I'm very happy about that with the Stanton cartridge, and that's how I intend to run it. What we ended up doing was I just sent back the Nagaoka MP110, and they refunded me part of the price, which was very nice of Fluance to do that. So they were really bending over backwards to work with me. They're really cool people. You buy these turntables directly from Fluance, which means that you're not dealing with a dealer in the middle. And I think that's kind of cool. And there's a number you can call and ask questions, and it's a very cool setup. This turntable is actually built by a company called Handpin. That's a Chinese company that makes a lot of turntables for a lot of different people. And people think, well, it was built in China, so it's junk. No. The people in China that work in them factories can build anything to whatever level of precision that you want. You just have to give them the materials, and you have to tell them that that's what you want. And they'll do it. And that's the case here, because this is the high-end turntable from Fluance. It has an auto stop feature, which I advise you to turn off as soon as you get it, because really all it does is it tries to figure out where the tone arm is at the end of the record, and if it stops the platter from rotating. That's it. Doesn't pick it up, doesn't move it back to the rest, it just stops it. I'm not a big fan of having a stylus sit on a record that's stationary. That's number one. Number two, it doesn't work very well. If you're playing a 45 RPM record, for instance, that's cut close to the label, when it gets to wherever the sensor thinks that it should be to lift it, it doesn't lift it, it actually changes the speed. The record goes, and it'll do that for the rest of that record, and then when it gets down to the end, it'll spin down and stop. So there's a switch on the back to turn it off. Great. Do it. This turntable does not have a preamp in it. It does not have a USB connector on it. This is good for audio quality. Turntables that have preamps built into them inevitably color the audio. I have an Audio-Technica LP-W40WN, which I dearly love and has a lot in common with this turntable since they're both made by Handpin. It does have a servo-controlled belt drive system just like this one does. But it has an internal preamp, and even if you switch it out, it colors the audio. It rolls off the high frequencies just a bit. Now, I'm using that turntable with a cheap cartridge on it, and I use it to audition stuff that I get from yard sales and whatnot. So, it's a great, still sounds good. It's just, it's not exactly flat. Since this turntable doesn't have any of that garbage on it, I'm getting what I expect from a Stanton 500, which is an extremely flat sound. The Stantons were the radio cartridge of choice in the U.S. for 50 or 60 years, and so therefore I love the sound. If you remember listening to the radio in the 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, into the 90s, and you heard a record on the radio, you heard a Stanton. One of the things I like that Fluance does is they send you all kinds of groovy stuff, and yes, you do get a nifty pair of white gloves. You get a full manual. The idea behind buying this turntable was to get one that was beyond reproach. It wasn't 40 years old. It wasn't beat up. I hadn't tried every cartridge under the sun on it. I love my U-turn orbit turntable, and I've been using that off and on for years, and still hanging on to that too. Probably won't be online, but I've gotten to a place where I'm very busy working at the radio station. I'll put a link where I work in the description here, and I just don't have time to fool around with turntables. I want to play records. That's what I want to do. So I wanted one that just worked, and this is it right here. A record magically appeared on the turntable. Pretty cool, huh? Well, I'm going to play you a little of this as we exit out. I usually play you something just so you can see it in operation. You can't hear anything, but you can see it. There are a lot of videos already on YouTube about this turntable. I watched a bunch, and there are a lot of guys who post videos on YouTube about turntables these days who obviously don't know a great deal about turntables. They don't know the engineering side of things. They don't understand how records are recorded or how they're made, or things like stylish shape and what all that means. And they're interesting to listen to. They don't quote any specifications because they don't understand them. So there are a lot of videos like that, and there's a lot of unboxing videos. So you can still get a lot out of those videos. I got to a place where I wouldn't watch them because they used to make me mad, and now I've gotten to the place where I watch them because I like to see the turntables. I just don't listen to what the idiots say. So with that, let's go ahead and flip the switch here over to 33 1/3 RPM, and we will lift the tone arm with the tiny little lifter, and we will position it carefully over the beginning of the record. I'm looking through the phone, so let me make double sure I got this right. Turn the amplifier up so you guys can hear it. And this is the wonderful sound of the Fluance RT85N with a Stanton V3 500 and the Pickering replacement stylus. Here we go.
Do your youngsters ever ask you, what did you do before television was invented? Now, sometimes it's hard to answer that question in a way that they'll understand. Of course, we read, and we played out in the fresh air a lot more, or at least that's what we tell the kids. But maybe there's another answer. Ask them to come in now and listen to these wonderful bits of imaginative trivia.
Have you tried wheat? Their whole wheat with all of the friends. The grand song, the all-American boy. Wave the flag for Hudson, my boy.
You see, I can't play music because I get busted for copyright, but I can play old-time radio stuff. Thanks for watching. I hope this video did you some good. We'll post another sometime soon when I get another toy to play with. I don't know, though. I'm going to stick with this one for a while. I'm kind of liking it. Thanks for watching.